I don't think you need me to tell you that we can't really see in the dark yet. But if you've ever tried staring at the sun, you'll know that seeing in 100% light is also pretty hard and painful. All of that to say that shadow is a completely necessary part of the equation. For you to have good lighting, you also have to have good shadows. And before you go and spend 3 paychecks on your lighting fixtures, please, it's foundational that you understand shadows. Understanding those is going to help you pick your light fixtures, decide where they go and when they're going to be used. And after you watch this video, it's going to be kind of obvious how to do the lighting layout of your house and what to get for each of your spaces. But Lola, why do we need to manage our shadows? I just want to understand lighting. I just want to buy my lamps. The reason why people hate so much on the big lights online is because of the shadows that they cast on you, on your objects. Because if we look into what a shadow is, it's just an obstruction to light, right? So when it comes to the downlights that most homes have, or pendants, sometimes it creates these dark spots on the floor, making the space look really heavy and weighed down, as opposed to a lamp, which is shining the light opposite towards the ceiling, like that one. This guides your eyes up, and by changing the position of the light, you're already casting shadows in different places. We just need to sculpt these shadows in a way that makes sense to your space, making it feel lighter and more comfortable and more inviting and more atmospheric, and it's not hard to do it. We're gonna go into it right now. But if you don't know me yet, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Lola, it's really nice to meet you. I'm a junior interior designer here in London in an architecture firm where I design spaces mainly, well, it's sort of a blend between commercial and residential because we work with build to rent, and so I get to design receptions, co-working spaces, gyms, as well as like the base build of the apartments. It's pretty cool. But I don't design a lot of homes, although it's a real passion of mine. I don't do that really at work. So I decided to speak more about it here in this space where I get to learn a lot and it's just really fun. So if you're into that kind of content, please subscribe. I'd love to have you around. The first step is then to soften your shadows. You're never going to be able to get rid of a shadow unless you have a lot of lights, but you're able to soften it with a few tactics, I'd say. I've created a little method to see if it would make it easier to understand. It's called DDM. DDM stands for diffuse, dim, and multiply. What is diffused is when you cover the bulb with something translucent. It can be paper, it can be a fabric, it can be a shade. Just be careful with the shades because they have extremities that are open. So the light will go through the open bits and create shadows on the ceiling and on the on the floor. This is diffused lighting. Actually, let me open it for you. I'll do it. I don't know if you can see the bulb. The second you put something on top of it that covers it but still lets the light through, then you've diffused it. I hope that makes sense. Next on the list is dim. Dimming is lowering the amount of light that is emitted from the source. Dimming is necessary because it allows you to tailor the light to what you're doing. And you know by now, if you've watched my other videos, I need my spaces to be flexible. I'm going to have to make an interruption because that girl forgot to say the most important thing. Dimming should be absolutely indispensable for anybody who has trouble falling asleep, especially for the 30 minutes or so before you go into bed. You should be able to dim your lights down so that your body starts producing the right hormones, getting you sleepy, so that you actually have quality sleep also. So yeah, just consider whether your lights being non-dimmable is actually supporting your lifestyle or if it's making your life a little or a lot more miserable. And this is why I invested in a smart bulb and connected it to my Alexa. I know it sounds like a really privileged thing, but that is the one thing that I will never let go. Being warm in bed and like reading my book, and when I want to go to sleep, I just say, Alexa, turn the lights off. It's just the most amazing thing. I promise you will never, ever regret it. Even in the kitchen, dimming allows you to control the atmosphere. And essentially, to wrap up, the less light you have being emitted from the source, the softer the shadows. So if you look at my face, you can see that the shadows are much softer now, but so are the highlights. And the more I increase it, the harsher are the shadows on my face. So if you want to look good, You just need to dim down the lights a little bit, and it's gonna soften your facial features. This is why the most romantic restaurants will have like dimmed down lights, candlelight, lamps, and this introduces the next topic, which is multiply. So from the moment you multiply your light sources, all you're doing is you're bouncing more light out of different places, lighting all of the objects more evenly on all sides. This diminishes the amount of shadow you have, so the amount of dark spots on the ground, on the ground, I keep saying on the ground, on the floor, on the walls, and it's still there. You can still see it's there, but this is what gives you this interesting visual aspect. It's like little pops of light and shade in different places. I was researching once on how to light up like the backdrop for videos and stuff. There was one director that was being interviewed, and he said he literally like squeezes his eyes like this at the screen, and if the scene doesn't have multiple spots of light and dark, he says he's done something wrong. The same thing applies for interiors, because you should never really have a space that when you squeeze your eyes, I don't know how to say that, oh my god. You know what I mean? You just see a full blob of light. There's no like spots of shadow, of darkness. It probably doesn't feel great to be there. It's probably quite tiring for the eyes, but also not so welcoming, and there's probably quite a bit of shadow on the floor. And to illustrate all of these concepts, I have a simple, very raw picture of my bedroom. So here I have a picture of it with the ceiling light on. You can see under the shelf, under the frames, that there is a really harsh shadow line. It's a really dark shadow. It really brings the space down. It makes it uncomfortable for some reason, and quite small, because if you look at the ceiling, there is a shadow on the ceiling too, because the light is focused down. So there's no light bouncing back up. It's a bit of a weird feeling. However, when I turn on my lamp, which is the same color, the same bulb, but turned upwards towards the ceiling, which is the usual configuration in my bedroom, it illuminates the ceiling, creating indirect lighting. So even though it's not diffused, there's nothing on top, it illuminates the ceiling, and the ceiling is what reflects the light back down. This filters the light a little bit. You can see under the frames, under the shelf, on the floor. You can clearly see it in the pictures. If I flick between one and the other, you'll see that the one with the lamp on is the one that feels the most welcoming, and the room looks much bigger as well, simply because the light is pointing up at the ceiling. Whereas in the other one, the light is really shining down and it's quite oppressive. Anyways, you got it. By sculpting those shadows, softening them a little bit, can make such a huge difference in the whole atmosphere of the room already. But moving on to a more macro perspective, I need you to see your home as different lighting zones. This does not mean just by room, but per task, if it makes sense. Okay, so you have a living room where you watch TV and maybe you want a lamp next to the TV, but in that same room there is an armchair where you'd like to read sometimes. Those are two separate lighting zones, because if nobody's in the TV area and you want to read, you need to be able to turn that light on by itself and create this little cocoon of light for yourself. This is going to make your home so much more exciting to live in, because you can create these different environments just through the use of lighting. So the same would happen if you had an armchair in your bedroom, or for example, a kitchen island. Maybe you don't want to use the whole kitchen. You're just having a nice romantic wine with your partner, and you just turn the lights of the island on because you want this sort of moody effect, but you're in the kitchen, so you don't necessarily need to have the big lights on. Separating these zones, so in this case the kitchen island would be a zone and the kitchen would be a different zone, it allows you the flexibility to shape your home as you use it. And I think this is really what it means to use your home to the maximum, you know? I think it's clear how you should zone your home. Let me know in the comments. Sometimes I tend to abstract things in my head, and to me it makes sense. I'm trying my best to explain it because this changed my life so much, but I don't know if it's coming across the way that I want it to come across. So please leave a comment if it's not, because I'll happily make another video. Like, I need you to understand this. As long as it serves you some sort of purpose, or you think it looks pretty, you know, you can have as many as you want. But the minimum are 2. Usually those are best placed vertically in different places. So when you walk into the room, they're not on the same level. It's gonna create a really nice balance. You're gonna see it with your own eyes when you do it. And when it comes to the task lighting, be careful with the angles. So when you have a shade that's open on the top and on the bottom, sometimes I've had situations in hotels, for example, where I'm trying to read, but the angle is so like under the shade. I can see the light bulb literally shining at my eyeballs, and it's so uncomfortable. If it's in a place where your eye is facing the light somehow, make sure that it's a diffuse light, like fully diffused, or that at least the bottom is not a bright light bulb that's gonna blind you. I don't ever want to go to someone's house and have to like smile and laugh through it, you know, even though I would. But anyways, I think ultimately your home is a reflection of you. If you like white lights, have white lights. If you like cold lights, have cold lights. I wouldn't personally have cold lights in my house. However, I have a very stubborn dad. He said he can't see in warm light properly, and I can't relate. But I also understand that he's not lying, and this is how he feels, and that's perfectly fine. I see so much hate out there for people who choose to have white and cold lights. Like, as long as it's not your home, why do you care so much? Life's too short to have that kind of argument. Let's just move on. I hope in some level this was helpful to you. I'm recording this really late, so I'm really excited to go to sleep. I'm wishing you a lovely evening or rest of your day, wherever you are, and I'll see you next time. Bye!